Okay, hello students. So I am recording my voice and my screen using the QuickTime Player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to make the interactive quiz. I'll make a couple quizzes. I'm going to make a very simple quiz just so that you can understand the basic concepts of the quiz and how the JavaScript interacts with the CSS and the HTML. And then I will walk you through the fancy quiz. Both the simple quiz and the fancy quiz will be available as templates on Blackboard. So, I'm sorry, on Canvas. Here we go. So this is Canvas. As you can see in our Canvas course, under modules, this is JavaScript. So everything under for online learning is what we're using today. So the quiz setup is just the setup with the questions and the CSS styling, so the buttons that you roll over and they change color, but there's no JavaScript, so it's just the setup. So if you have questions that you have written, you can plug them into this. The very simple quiz I'm going to go over first. Basically the difference is that all the questions appear on one screen and you press a submit button. There's some issues with it which I'll explain, but it's a very simple version of the quiz. The fancy quiz is just a little fancier and it shows you questions one at a time. And we have to play some games with JavaScript to make that happen because we have to make some of the other questions disappear. So I have downloaded all of these. So here, the quiz setup, again, this is just the HTML and the CSS. There's no JavaScript here. So, I have the background of my choice, I have a header, and then I have the individual questions. And they're set up repetitively so that the question text looks like this and the question answers look like this. And when I roll over them, they highlight. If I click on them, they change color. But there's no interactivity here because they're not linked to JavaScript. And if you look at the HTML, you'll see it's very simple. We have our regular HTML document. There's a link to a style sheet. And then we have the body, and inside the body is the main tag. The main is containing all the questions. We have the header, how well do you know cats? And then each question 1, question 2, question 3, and question 4, are contained within sections. And each section has a different ID. So the first section is ID Q1 for question 1, and the second one is section ID Q2 for question 2. Same for the third and the fourth. And that's important later on in programming because we're going to want to be able to identify which question we're on. Have we answered the first question or the second question? But now we don't have to worry about it. Each question has some title text, which is what would you feed a cat? So it's the actual question itself. And then each of the selections are inside a button tag. Canned tuna, cats eat anything, high protein cat food, milk and cream. And each question is set up in an identical format. So once you have set up the structure for your first question and you are satisfied with the display, you can just repeat that with the other questions. Now at the bottom, you'll see we have this div here. This is div ID equal results, and it's empty. That's because inside of it we're going to put the answers, meaning the response that the system gives, the computer gives to the user based on what the user clicked. And so the JavaScript is going to fill that. We don't have anything to put it at in the beginning because we don't know what the user is going to do. But at the end, the JavaScript is going to write the response like, you got all of them right, congratulations. Okay, so that's why it's there, that's why it's empty. The CSS, very simple. Body has a background color, it's got background images. Main, remember this is the area that is containing all of the questions. I think it also contains the results. So we set it to a width of 60% and we set it to margin auto, which centers it within the browser window. And if we look here, We can see that our content is about 60% of our browser window, and it is centered within it. H1 is the header at the top, so we made it really big with a font size of 3M. Section, so this is where things get repetitive. So each question and its answers are encased in a section. So the section has a padding of 1%. That means all the way around the edge, so that the text does not butt up against the edge. The background color is antique white. And then the question text is H2, so it's 2 M's. The font size is 2 M's, which makes it smaller than the header at the top, which is 3 M's. And then for each question answer is inside of a button. And so the size there, the font size is 1M, and we change the background color. Now we're going to set the button to a width of 100% because, as you see, the buttons span the width of the main area. And buttons are special that way. We can give them a width and then we can see them expanding. Okay, then the hover is the color that the background color turns when I roll my mouse over the question, the answer, and you can see that it's that green. Button active means what happens when I click down upon the button tag. So that's hover, that's active. Okay, so that's the basic quiz setup.